Hello, it is me Ashley, and in today's video I'm going to be doing a design student Q&A. So this video has always been something that I've wanted to do because I've always filmed uni vlogs, but I haven't actually had the chance to sit down and kind of just talk about how uni is actually like. So that's why I wanted to do that in this video. So on my Instagram I asked you guys for some questions, and today I'm going to be answering those questions. So I've kind of just organized some of the questions that I got into 4 categories, and I'll just be going through each one of them. So before I begin, I wanted to go over some of the basic information about my studies. So basically, I graduated high school in 2023 and I started my Bachelor of Communication Design Studies in 2024. This is a 3-year course, so I graduate in 2026. Right now is my 2nd year, and then next year, 2026, is when I'm graduating. So that's basically the basic information. And now I'll be going on to the basic generic questions, I guess, about what design is like to me. First question is, what kind of design do you do? So I do communication design, which is communicating ideas through design. So it's not really product design. It's kind of like graphic design. It's like the type of design where you get an idea and you turn that idea into a visual illustration basically, but it's very broad, so it's not necessarily like graphic design. We can also do a bit of video or like 3D, but the main goal of the study is learning how to communicate an idea in a visual way. Next question is, would you recommend design to others? I think if you have the passion for it, it's definitely something that I recommend. For me personally, I will get to this in the further questions, but I had a choice between something completely different to design or design. And I think I just knew that I would genuinely enjoy doing design. That's why I chose it, and I do not regret choosing it. So if you have that kind of passion for design, I think you should definitely do it. Next is, what got you to be interested in design? I was always like into the field of design, I guess. First of all, my mom is a interior designer, so I think it's also a bit of getting her genes. But when I was young, I used to like making books, and like I really liked art. And art was like my strongest subject in primary school and also high school. So when I did a subject in year 12, which was visual communication design, I kind of was like, oh, like I really want to be doing this further on. So that's why I went into the field of design. Is there anything about design you regret or you wish you knew before you started? I think I have a very strong response for this. I feel like one thing that I regret was I didn't have my weekly plan put together when I started uni. I didn't actually have my YouTube together. So what I did was I would always edit first, and then I would do my uni work in the remaining time. And I feel like because I didn't prioritize uni in my first year, I didn't get to put my 100%, and I became not that enthusiastic about my design works because I didn't put much time, and I would just do whatever I can in the remaining time before the deadline. And actually kind of made me question if I wanted to do design, because it just felt like a bit of a chore, not a hobby. And this was another thing that I had kept in mind before choosing design, because I knew if I do something that I like as a study, it might become like feel like a work and I might lose passion for it. But I think I actually came to overcome that in my 2nd semester of year 1, when I actually put my I can't say 100%, but I did put in like 70-80% of my effort in it, and actually felt the achievement of actually liking a design work that I did. So definitely I think one of my biggest regret is not prioritizing uni, but that's okay, because I think I kind of realized that to the end of my first year, and I'm trying not to do that too much. Next question is, did you need a folio? If so, how'd you make it? So for my uni, the entry requirement for my course was a folio, so I had to submit like a 4-page folio work and then like 2 responses, I think. And how I made it was, firstly, I just kept reading over the brief like over and over again just before I did anything, because I didn't want to make or do something that wouldn't fit the brief in the end. Like this was during the same period as my exams, so I had to plan for that since the beginning of the year. And I was also not sure if I wanted to do design, so I felt very like iffy throughout the whole year. And for mine, I felt like they wanted to see the passion of design in the folio. So that's why I had to look for things that I've already done and make things that I felt like showed my passion for design. At first I thought we weren't allowed to use any work from school, but later turns out it was okay. So I used my VCD work and put it in my folio. So all I did was just collate the best works and then I just put it into a PDF. And then the response questions, I just wrote down like what would best represent my view on design. Like now that I'm saying it, it sounds like it was so easy, but in that moment I was just I felt very unsure because it's so subjective and there's no right or wrong answer. It's just like whether the markers would like it or not. Yeah, that's how I made it. And I had to make it in the same year as my VC studies, because basically I was going to explain this later, but I'll just explain it just because I've kind of touched on the topic. When I was in year 12, here in Australia, you choose your uni studies like halfway through year 12. You put in your preferences, like the school helps you do it. When I was at the end of year 10 and I was choosing my subjects for graduating year 12, I chose VCD, but I also chose a lot of subjects that helps you get a lot of like a high ATAR. ATAR is like your final score, because I wasn't sure if I wanted to do design. If I wasn't gonna do design, my next thought was doing something in the fields of business. So that's why I still needed a somewhat good ATAR in case I don't choose design. So I did like 2 maths, English, I did business, VCD, and legal studies. I was doing a bit of everything, I guess, except for science. When I was halfway through year 12, I kind of realized like I don't want to do this. I don't want to do business. I know for sure I want to do design. So I think I had a bit of a dilemma in the second half of the year, because if I was gonna go for design, my ATAR didn't matter at all, but there was no assurance that I was going to get into my design course. So I was a bit conflicted throughout year 12, but that's basically how it went. And I ended up doing design, and luckily I was able to get into my course. And then the next question is, are you happy with what you chose to do? I think I've already answered that. I'm very happy. I am happy, but I'm also curious, like what would I be doing if I chose something in business? But I only came to really liking design halfway through halfway through first year, because when I first did it, I actually considered kind of dropping it. Like it wasn't I want to drop, but it was like, oh, like is this what design is? Because in the first year everything was very theory based. There was a lot of theory, which I didn't mind, but I think when it came to like the class pin-up sessions where you would put up your work on a wall, like a long wall, and like the whole class will be looking at each and everyone's work and kind of like critiquing it, it felt weird, because I would look at the works, like some work I would like, but the tutor would be like, oh, this one isn't like as strong. So I think it kind of made me feel a bit like, oh, is there like actually a right or wrong in this? So I think that was a bit of a questionable time in my design studies, but I eventually overcame that, and I overcame that by kind of understanding that design is subjective. Even if your tutors say something is bad or good, it's okay to personally like something. But I think because our tutors and the study of design is basically like a bit more on the like theory side, and more on, rather than how it looks aesthetically, it's more like, oh, how does this like make the viewer feel, more like reasoning based. I think I came to understand that they're not like necessarily wrong, and I can actually take their advice and not do what they tell me to do, but kind of use that advice and kind of mix it into my idea. So yeah, I think I only came to realize that only like last assignment for my semester 2 class, but I'm happy that I was able to realize that. Next is it necessary to take up a course? Like one can't learn graphic design on their own. I think this was actually like, this naturally flows with what I'm talking about. That was the thought that I had when I was kind of not enjoying graphic design at the beginning of last year. I think, yes, you can definitely become an expert in graphic design and you can make so much more even without studying, but I think especially for someone like me, because I have a class, I'm actually doing the work. As much as I like design, I don't think I would be going out my way to do design in my own time, especially because I'm already doing YouTube. So I kind of see my classes in a way as like it actually forces me to do the work. But I think definitely if you have the ambition to do stuff, then you can do it whenever and wherever. But also I think one of the main advantages about studying in a course is you have so many other people in the same class like studying the same thing as you, so you can make connections and you can make friends, and you can also get each other's feedback in a much more like efficient way, I guess, because you meet like once a week. Our tutors are also very experienced in the field of graphic design, so it's very, in a way, like convenient to get assistance, whereas I feel like if you do it alone it might be a bit hard to get access to those informations. At the end of the day, I feel like it's like the passion that matters. And the next question is, does it require to be good at drawing? Not really, because it's really up to you how you decide to present your work. I'm personally not like the best drawer, so that's why I avoid any drawing in my final presentations and kind of just go with what I'm most strong with. There's no actual disadvantage if you can't draw, because it's like very free form in the way that you do your work. So no one's gonna force you to draw. Like, I can't say this for every course, but for me specifically, I think if you use your strong points as an advantage, it can outweigh the disadvantage that you have. How do you manage all your classes, and how many do you have per semester? So I have 3 classes a semester, and how I manage my classes is, firstly, timetabling is pretty important. I didn't think it was that important until this year. When you're putting in your timetable preferences, you need to really think. You need to give yourself breaks, and you need to give yourself time for each of the classes. So how I did mine was, I knew Mondays I would not be able to actually wake up in time. It's like Mondays feel like a Saturday for me because it's like a long weekend and then Monday. So I purposely didn't put in preferences for Monday. I went to school Tuesday and Fridays only. Tuesdays I put in a morning class and a afternoon class. It's really good for me personally, because when I have like a huge gap between my 2 classes, I'm basically just having to stay in the city waiting for my next class, and it just like gives me all the reason to get my work done. I think that's definitely gotten me to catch up for my next class. And then I would not go to school on Wednesday, Thursday. I think it's important to give yourself time and give yourself space between your classes, and also having a diary and writing down any important dates. I'm gonna answer the last 3 questions for the basic questions, and then I'm gonna be making something with felt. What form of technology do you typically need? I use my MacBook, and I'll write down the MacBook that I use, as well as my iPad. Those are the 2 main devices that I use, and for my MacBook it's just to have all the editing softwares, and I use my iPad to draw stuff for my designs, or if I'm needing to like make sketches for ideas. If anything, like I need my AirPods to do my work whilst listening to music. Next question is very deep, I guess. I have a lot to talk about this, and I was actually gonna make a video about this because I have a lot to say about this topic, but someone said, any tips for avoiding comparison? This is one of the biggest hardships that I had to deal with in my first year. With design, it is such a comparative subject. I feel like it's so like you put your work next to other people's and look at your work next to other people kind of subject, which it can only make you compare yourself to other people. I feel like you can't avoid that no matter what. Like, you're gonna always compare yourself to people, even with that is self-thinking, I feel like. But I think instead of avoiding it, I've come to kind of just accept it and see it as a learning lesson, because I always see people's work, like when we're like in our like 3rd briefing lesson, like consultation lesson, people would have their work like printed and like pinned up. We would see everyone's work, and you can tell which one you're like, oh, like why didn't I think of that? But I think instead of making yourself like feel bad about it, if you try and think of it positively, like, oh, like one day I will make something like that, or like something that I will feel this way, it can somewhat help. I think at the end of the day, like, it's not something that you can completely avoid. If you want to avoid it, you just can't look at other people's work. But I think you just need to compare yourself for growth. So that's kind of how I see it. I have a lot to talk about this topic, not in just design as well. Like, I have these thoughts. Whatever I make, I look at it, it's like it doesn't look good, but then when I see other people make it, it looks good. But I think I've come to realize, like, because you're immersed, like you critique yourself the most, that's why things don't look as good as you think. So a bit of change in angle. I'm now going to be making something. I'll give a quick rundown of what I'm making. So in my last video, I was talking about how I wanted to do a bit of more arts and craft, and that's why I bought some felt and I made this tomato bookmark, and you basically just put it in the corner of your book like that. So I kind of just made that, and I'm gonna make some more whilst I'm answering some more questions, and hopefully I can multitask. So the next question that I got is it hard to think of an idea? It's not hard if you research and plan enough. And I realized the reason why I have creative blocks sometimes is because I don't really look at the given brief properly, or I don't research enough. And one thing that I learned through this semester was the importance of researching as a designer. Well, the researching part, when I'm saying that, I'm also including the brainstorming and getting mood boards and doing client research. I realized that when I don't have a clear either mood board or client profile, that's when any idea that I think of just seems uncertain. It's hard for me to think of a idea without doubting myself. Also, when I was doing visual communication design in year 12, we learned a ton of creative thinking strategies. There was word association, or brain dumping everything, creating a mind map, changing the scale of something. There was a bunch of that, and I actually did that so much in year 12 that it's kind of stayed with me, and I'm just using that now. Next question is your favorite thing to study in design. I think my favorite thing was, one of the subjects was Studio 1, but the assignment that we did was creating a brand, and I came to realize that I do enjoy learning about creating a brand, learning about the steps that we take as designers to create something out of nothing. I think that was really interesting for me. Any difficulties you encounter, I think trying to get yourself productive when you just can't think of an idea for a project. And one of the main struggles that I had to deal with, this one was for one of my studio classes where I had to make mock-ups of the actual design that I made. One thing that made me spend so much time was where I had to find mock-ups that were fitting to my design style, because when you as a design student, a lot of the final outcomes require you to show how this communication will look in place. And when I was doing that, I think I had the biggest struggle and spent so much time trying to find appropriate mock-ups that weren't expensive and just were consistent, because I was searching through different webs and everything. But with my assignment for this semester, I actually was able to overcome that, and this was all thanks to Pacdora, because I was able to work with them for this video. I'm going to be quickly introducing to you about Pacdora, because I think as a design student, I want to share something that I actually benefited a lot from. I want to give a big thanks to Pacdora for reaching out to me, and this was actually right just in time during my assignment period, so I was able to access the use of their subscription on their website and get access to all their mock-ups, customizable die lines, and their 3D design capabilities. Pacdora offers a wide range of mockups and die lines in their website. So as a designer, you get a wide range of selections. So when I was doing my final project, I needed a plastic container box and flags for the outside sceneries. I was able to easily find that through their website, and you can upload any files that you have and paste it into their site, and you can see how your design looks like as a 3D model on the mockup. You can also move it around. I think being able to have this flexibility allowed me to make a few changes in my design, and also just be able to present my design in a clear way. So this was a lot more convenient for me, rather than having to manually do it on Adobe, which I'm still not used to. You can also save the file in PNG, and you can generate AI backgrounds to fit to your context. But I just wanted to share with you guys something that I benefited from, and I think as designers it's like an extra step having to look for mock-ups when you're creating your final step of the design. So I definitely recommend you to check out Pacdora and just have a look at the different die lines and mock-ups that they have. I think you will definitely find one that you need for your project. So I hope this gave you some insight for those who are doing design or who are looking for sites where you can conveniently look at your designs in a final product form. So make sure to check out Pacdora, and if you're interested, I will also link my code for 20% off discount. And I just want to give a big thanks to them for actually helping out with my assignment. Being able to use their mock-up saved so much of my time, and it actually made my final outcome look a lot more consistent and aesthetically pleasing. So thank you so much, Pacdora. Anyways, my next question is, where do you get your inspiration from for design? I would say my main inspiration is actually Pinterest. What I do is whenever I am bored, I always just do a quick stroll through Pinterest and save whatever I like every day. And I think that kind of keeps me in like a creative mindset. But I also look at Behance for how other people put together their design work and how they do their design work. Can you use mixed media in design, or is it all digital? You can use mixed media. There's actually no right or wrong. It's not only solely digitally, because whenever we do our assignment, our tutors do open up the idea of using other things like making videos for the final communication. So I think as long as you communicate an idea, you can't really do it wrong, and I think that's what I like about design. So the next question is, what are the main things they teach you? What is different to what I thought was, design doesn't really teach you how to make something look nice, but it's more very technical. For example, when I had my class in typography, I actually thought I'd be learning how to make typography or like what typefaces work together, but it was more like seeing if a typeface is optically correct, or if it's like, what is it, systematically correct or something. Same with like in my publication class, we're learning about the grid system. So it was a lot more like technical stuff behind design and how technical stuff proves a successful design, I guess. This is how it looks like. I just didn't stitch it together. And next is, do you think you're growing as a student, and can you see it? I think from what I've said, I think I've improved in my mentality with design. How do you keep yourself motivated and find ideas that help your creativity? How I keep myself motivated is when I'm doing my assignment works, before I like even choose to do anything, I make sure that what I plan to do is something that I'll actually enjoy doing. I think that's very important for me personally, because if I can't enjoy a project, I can't seem to do it because it just feels like a job. So I try to make my design decisions something that I want to do, something that I want to experiment as well. And how I find ideas for creativity is, I think when you keep thinking of something, like whenever you see things out in the world, it's like sometimes you get those ideas from what you've been thinking. And I've experienced that quite a lot, and it's pretty interesting. But I think if you keep thinking about your project, it can help you get some ideas. And my third topic is assignments. So these are questions about my design student assignment. First question is, on a scale of 1 to 10, how hard are your assignments? I'd say it's a 6 or 7, because yes, like it's stressful, but I think it's kind of on me because I'm the one that's starting the project and making the design decision. I have control of how much I decide to do and how much stress I put on myself. So I think when I do something that's less risky or less time consuming, I can save myself from being stressed. Whereas if I decide to kind of give myself more workload, then I can control. That's like me doing that on me. Next question is, do you lack motivation when it comes to your final assignments? If so, how do you avoid it? Yes, I have gone through many assignments where I lack so much motivation, and I think it's because when I don't look at the work for a long time, it becomes unclear to me, and it just makes me not bothered to think about it, and that eventually leads me to not do it. But when I actually like force myself to sit down and read everything from the beginning and look at my progress from the beginning to catch up on it, it helps me like get back on track. But it's like a big step that I have to take, and that's kind of how I stop myself from being unmotivated. I just like put myself together and get myself to open up the file and look at everything from the beginning just to get back on track. And then when I get back on track, think of the next step, that's when I'm able to kind of naturally go into doing it. So it's just like that one big step that I have to take. Third one is, how do you organize your time? Definitely having a diary. When you get used to using a diary, I feel like you kind of get to understand like what days you are best at doing what. I think just when you get to know your whole schedule, what times you work best, that's when I think you're able to organize your time and use your time productively. How do you deal with school projects? For me personally, it's actually the deadline that gets me to do the work in time. When an assignment is just introduced, I tend to just like do it only in class time, and then when the due date actually gets close, that's when I'm doing it for like one whole night and stuff. Next is, do you have exams or is it just assignments? I only have assignments, which I'm so grateful about. We don't have any like assessments for this course of study, and it's just assignments, so I just need to finish final projects. When it's like the end of a semester, that's when I'm most busy, and I actually just got over that busy phase because I finished my last assignment on Saturday night, so I'm feeling so free right now. And last is, what is your favorite assignment? My one is definitely last year's second semester assignment was one of my favorites, because I think that was when I actually did something that I was interested in, and that was it was called Folder Bird. It was basically a project where we had to think of a futuristic idea and turn that into a design like outcome. Before we do that, we had to think of a current day problem, and I was looking at housing problems and how there aren't as many homes that people can like buy and live in, like especially in the city. So that's why I thought of the futuristic idea of having foldable homes, and this doesn't have to be like realistic. I thought of that idea, and then I made like a design for that brand that makes foldable homes, and I called it Folder Bird. And I played with the concept of how folding is really related to origami, so I made the whole house logo look like a folded origami paper and everything. I really enjoyed like actually buying origami paper and like playing around with it to get the shape of my design. So I would say that's one of my favorite designs. What are your plans after graduating as a design student? And this one actually hit me because I'm actually graduating quite soon, and I can't believe it. I've been thinking a lot recently, like what am I actually going to do when I graduate? I'm not too exactly sure. I think it's because I have quite a lot of options. So it's either I do internship, or I like look into a job, or I do my own thing, and I'm trying not to make myself feel stressed about it. As of now, I'm just going to peacefully do my design work, and next year is when I will actually think about it deeply. I'm not too sure what I'm going to do and what I like doing, so we'll see about that, but I am open to options, and I'm just trying to think what I like best. So I can't really answer that now as much as I want to. In the future, you'll definitely be able to know what kind of pathway I take. But I finished making my bookmark. Looks like this. I've only been making this so far, but soon I will be making different things. I've always been wanting to make like felt plushies. But that basically concludes my video. I have answered all the questions that have been asked about design, so hopefully your curiosity has been answered. Thank you so much for your questions, and if there are any other questions that you have, make sure to ask them in the comments. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video.